Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. These were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, so about a year ago, I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Clarence, and he lived up in Union, New Mexico, which is kind of in this area. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but right up in here where it touches Colorado and Oklahoma. This is like remote corner of. And he was, or comes from old Texas oil money, rather wealthy gentleman. I met him via a subscriber named Redneck, who was a kind of mushroom gatherer, designed silver jewelry and stuff. And that's pretty much how he had met Clarence. Clarence, even though came from money, became kind of a self-made millionaire. He kind of separated himself from that Texas oil money side. But he was still, fairly well off. Actually, he is older. He's in his 80s, but he's freaking rich, bottom line. And he and his wife built this beautiful ranch up there, and his wife was an artist. She would do a lot of painting. They'd go to Taos together and do the artist gatherings in communities and stuff there. One eventful, horrific night, he lost everything. His wife was tragically taken from him. He ended up selling his property almost a year later. And she had a beautiful art studio off this kind of garage barn thing that they had built. It was just a beautiful little ranch, just this, him and her. After all this went down, he ends up moving back to Texas, takes a loss in the property, but after watching a crawler or crawlers attack your life and take your wife from you, I wouldn't think anyone would stay on that property, so he ends up moving back to Texas and kind of submerges himself in the business. So I end up meeting his great nephew, and his name's Jack. Really nice guy. coming from that wealthy old Texas oil money. And that's, there's new money and old money, and these people are just the epitome of old money. He had, he was kind of a fuck up back in his younger days, back in 2007. But being loaded, he had the best of everything. And he had this jacked up Jeep that pretty much could get anywhere. So it obviously had heard through the grapevine and family talks what had happened to Clarence and Clarence's wife. It wasn't until years later that he had heard about exactly what happened, but it's a steaming hot day in August of 2007. It's him, his best friend, and their two girlfriends. So 4 of them all together. They're in the Reitman Pittman Lake, which is a strange lake in the middle of Bowie County. Very densely packed forested area, swamps, a very strange kind of windy lake, very serpent-like, tributaries popping off of it. And it is a dangerous place. There's some critters out there that could really hurt you. And I'm not talking about the cryptid kind. Just basic, critters. But him and his best friend have been out in this area numerous times. And they had brought in 4 inner tubes. Like I said, hot day. They're not drinking alcohol. They may have partaked in a little bit of marijuana throughout the day. But it was no hallucinations. I hate when people think that, oh, you're smoking weed, they're hallucinating. And a lot of people that share their experiences feel like they have to, say that, because there are people that don't realize it. It's scheduled as a hallucinogenic, but it doesn't make you hallucinate. It doesn't make you see what these guys saw. So they are in their location where they are very familiar with. And they hear some very loud yelling. And seconds later, they hear gunfire. And the girls are they're all separated, they're all like just going with the current and the wind on these inner tubes. Jack looks at the girls and he's like, hey, zip it. I'm trying to hear what's going on. And the girls, just being, young, in their 20s as well, they're loud too. They're having fun. They don't. And it's Texas. So, unlike upstate New York, a lot of kids go out into the woods with their rifles and firearms and target practice. And that's what Jack is trying to figure out, just if it is indeed what the first thing popped to his mind. And then he realizes, oh shit, we're a lot further than normal. A lot further than normal. And he sees this kind of inlet, and he looks at his friend and he goes, listen, let's kind of combine all of our inner tubes and let's go in the inlet and see if we can hear exactly what's going on. So they make this kind of inner tube flotilla. Arms are interlocked with, in the other tube. And, so there are 4 of them, and they kind of coast and are assisted with using their hands as paddles, and they get into this little inlet and they're listening, and he distinctly hears, "Don't let the little fucker go." And he's like, "Oh shit." And he looks at the girls and he's like, "Listen, right now," he goes, "I'm pretty certain, I might be wrong, but what is coming to my mind right now is these may be poachers." But even back in 2007, there was a hog problem in Texas, and you can shoot hog, but people poach, unfortunately, and I'm not talking about hog. And the girls are still kind of being loud, and he said, "All right, here, if these people are indeed poaching illegally, do you think they are not going to hesitate to come off of that, out of those woods, come to that shore in that bank there and start shooting us? Because chances are that's what's going to happen if you continue to be loud." And they all kind of just like, "Oh shit, you're right. You're right. What should we do?" And he's like, "Let's just sit here for a minute, get ourselves together, and we can either stay in this area or, go back up to where we came. But I want to figure out what's going on in case we have to call law enforcement." Jack, he said this, he's like, it might sound dumb to you, being who I am, and, I hope you don't have a negative perception of me because my family is wealthy, but, I'm not like that. If my family wants to give me some, buy me a Jeep or, make sure I have some money in my account at all times, hey, who am I to say don't do it? So they're stationary listening, and there's a lot more conversation going on. And he goes, "I really think they are poachers." So the girls are like, "Well, what should we do? What should we do?" And his best friend's like, "Listen, let's kind of double paddle back and get the hell out of here, with their hands and arms." And at that split second, as they are figuring out a way of turning the inner tube flotilla back the way it came, they hear more talking, and then they hear distinctly that you let it get the fuck away. You let it get away. There is just deep F-bombs being dropped. So then they hear a burst of 3 semi-automatic, bop, 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 or automatic, whichever. I'm not sure. He wasn't sure. And now we got it, he says. Not the voices from the woods. And they hear this kind of gurgling, grunting, leaves being busted, just something crazy's coming. And lo and behold, what comes out of those woods is what at first they think is a naked human. They're like, "Nope, they're not poaching, they're hunting humans. Holy shit, we definitely need to get out of here." The girls, of course, scream very loudly. So at this point, they are visually seeing what they think is a naked man, or, teenager. It wasn't very big, he said. He said it couldn't have been more, than 5 feet tall. He said we were about 40, 50 feet from the shoreline. So when it came out of the woods and dropped into the water, that's the best we got for a visual of it. You know, it was almost human skin color, but more yellowish. Facial, couldn't really see, but it was bald. And as it fell into the water, it just kind of stayed right there and floated. Instantly, Jack's best friend goes, "We got to get the hell out of here." They're on tubes, you know, so they kind of just go through the tubes, and the girls as well, like, they are now scared shitless. And of course, they scream loudly when this crawler-like creature comes running out of the woods and dies in the water. So they drop in through their tube and swim with their tubes very quickly. Jack and his best friend are like, "Go. Like, we are going to get shot. Whatever the hell is going on right there, we don't want any part of it. We need to get out of here." So they start to swim up towards where they had come in and parked, which is an area called Maud, and just another part of Bowie County, you know, an unincorporated little town, not very many people. And so they're pushing themselves up, but he hears, well, everyone hears people coming out of the woods. And, you know, he yells, you know, "Keep swimming. Don't look back. Whatever happens, don't stop swimming. Whatever happens, don't stop." So they get up a little ways, and Jack turns to look back at the inlet, but he doesn't have a good vantage point because now they're out of the inlet and going up through the lake. But he does see three men come out of the woods, and in military uniform, definitely carrying M4s. And he goes, you know, "Go, go, go." And they hear a verbal command. "You need to come back here. We'll find you. You need to get back here and tell us what you saw." That's all they heard at that time, and they just pushed it out of there as fast as they could. So they hear this command / threat. They're pushing. They've got their inner tubes ahead of them, swimming, using the inner tube as a flotation device, being able to move a little faster. Jack and his best friend had, like, pretty much said, "This is the only way we're getting out of here. The girls are going to have to listen." And he kind of looks back and realizes they are out of the inlet, but he can only make out just a very, very little bit of what he is, you know, able to see. And it clearly is 2 or 3. At this point, he can't see very great, but there is 2 or 3 soldiers. And he's, you know, in his head going, "What in the hell is going on? What did we stumble upon?" He's like, that thing that dropped in the water, they obviously were doing something. You know, who knows what that was? Maybe the military is down here hunting these things. Who knows? But when that thing had fallen into the water, he didn't put 2 and 2 together. until a little bit of time had passed. Also, as they are pushing themselves up through the lake to get to where they had parked, and he's thinking about, oh, wait a second, but there was also, he doesn't know if they were trying to shoot at them or if it was a scare tactic, but there was a quick burst, no more than 3 rounds, and he's not sure if they were aimed directly at them or not. Maybe a scare tactic, like I said. But they got about half an hour to get to where they are. They had been floating for about an hour and 20 minutes. But to swim, back up to where they had parked is going to take some time. And he's, girls are talking, he's talking, his best friends are talking, and he's thinking, though. He's just like, holy shit. He's like, I think that's what Uncle Clarence was talking about, those things. The crawlers. And, as he's just kicking these ideas in his head, his best friend was like, listen, like, why do you think the military would be in these woods? And where would they come from? And, like, they are dead center in Bowie County. They're in right Patman Lake. And his next kind of thought is, shit, they would be at Red River Army. That's just north of where we are. That's exactly, there's nothing else closer. And so they continue to swim up, and they get to where they had parked, quickly throw in the tubes into the Jeep, and, everyone tries to get clothes on as quick as they can, dry off as quick as they can. Obviously, you're not going to be completely dry. There's going to be sand. It's just a complete shit show. They get into the Jeep and start to drive out of this isolated location. And 5 minutes goes by. They're cruising along on this dirt road. It's not any highway. It's not on any highway map. It's pretty much local hangout. If you're a local, you know it, and all of a sudden they round this bend, and he's driving, and he goes, what the hell? And sure as shit, there is a military cargo truck, like a troop transport truck with the kind of canvas backing on the truck. It's an open-ended diesel, but it's covered with the tarp, and it's coming straight at him. And being who he was in 2007, young, not thinking, adrenaline addict, that truck is plowing towards him. And the next thing he does is put his life and his best friend and his girlfriend and his best friend's girlfriend in their lives in the palm of his hand. he guns it, and he is heading directly towards that truck. He's like, all right, well, we got to get out of here. And I can only, what the hell's going to happen if we do stop? We just saw them shoot something that we have no idea. The girls are crying, and this is all going through his head like, shit, they shot at us. Who's to say they won't shoot at us if we stop? And he punches it, and he aims right for it. He's dead on. Chicken. Who's going to turn first? And they are on a collision course, and in seconds to feet later, he's driving as that troop transport truck goes off into a gully. It doesn't flip or anything, but it's stuck in this gully. And they continue to haul ass out of there. They hear another burst of the soldiers are shooting at him again. Whoever was in the back of that transport truck. And they're out. They get back to civilization, which is 40 minutes away. Still in Bowie County. I'm not going to give you an exact location where he lives. Drops the girls off, and his best friend goes with him to home. They're talking like bandits. What do you think that was? Holy crap, They get the girls dropped off. Jack and Tim are back at his house, just like shit. And Jack says, listen, I gotta tell you something. And he tells him his Uncle Clarence's experience. And he goes, I think that's what that thing was that fell in the water. And his best friend Tim goes, that makes sense. If it was, he goes, I thought it was a human. He goes, I thought it was like a naked teenager. He goes, it was not very big. He was 5 foot tall, maybe. He goes, but there wasn't any blood. And if it was, it wasn't red. And then when it hit that water, he goes, I thought for sure it was going to spring to life and grab one of us. So he tells him all that, and just Tim's like, wow, what the hell? And he said, I gotta talk to, I gotta tell my dad what just happened, Maybe my dad can get my uncle down here, to tell us more. And not his great uncle, not Clarence, but the uncle that's closest to Clarence. They do. And he fills everyone in. I think they came from the Red River Army Depot. This thing was clearly a weapon. Maybe it malfunctioned. Who knows? But they shot at us like they wanted to keep that secret. So what happens? That's like nothing. You want to hear how crazy this is? Texas oil money, Texas generational oil money, some of the most powerful, corrupt money in America, can't even buy answers from a political friend that these Texan oil money barons have in their pockets. Jack fills in his family, the ones that are on a need to know, his dad, uncle. Dad's upset because his son almost was killed, right? Contacts that Texan politician. Demands why is the U.S. military conducting operations in state land? Not a national park, but state land. Texas state land. Texas is a entity of its own if you really think about it. It's a just like New York is a kind of, it's its own just ugh. But Texas is different. You think it was. It is when it comes to certain things, but when it comes to the politicians hiding dirty laundry, his dad said, why is the military doing this? What was the point? Why are these creatures there? We know what these creatures are. We've heard of these things. Similar to why CIA conducts operations on U.S. soil when they're not supposed to. Because they can, right? Here's what'll happen. You give us your technology, alien/demon creatures, creating crawlers as weapons or whatever they're created for. But give us some tech and we'll give you 20,000 American citizens a year to abduct and do whatever. So when old Texas oil money, once again the most corrupt money in America, can't buy answers from a politician from Texas, who can? Who gets the truth? Who gets the truth? None of us. Jack, when we were talking, said, what's crazy is I don't believe that my dad's friend, who's pretty influential in the state of Texas, I don't think he even knows what these things are and what they're for. Weapons of war. Not created by Americans, not created by, the greatest minds in America for weapons. No. By demons, which in a different terminology we call aliens. But these things are indeed demons. Create. I have an idea on this, though. I'm going to look into it on why these things are created, but it's very interesting theory I have that I'll share with you guys when I look into it after, probably on Monday. But if they can't get answers, who can? How fucking scary is that? When corrupt money can't buy the answers that it wants. In America at that. That's freaking scary. Anyway. That was today's upload. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps the channel to continue to grow and go. And what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories, judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.